Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be continuing our series on the Mooney M20J and taking a look at takeoff as well as setting cruise and some of the kind of considerations. At this point the aircraft has been started, it has been run up, everything is completely ready to rock, and just kind of pick up right where we left off kind of a thing. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. It does not take much. Takeoff's pretty straightforward. There's one little, I like to call it, again that's a technical term, I don't know what they actually call it in the book, but one thing that you got to watch out for, and that's going to be the electric fuel pump. It has a neat little quirk to it, and you'll get a kick out of it once we get airborne there. At this point, of course, everything has already been preset for us. We've done our run-up. All our gauges are in the right places. All of our numbers are in the correct places. Everything is ready to go. Important to know when you're taking off, obviously you want to be interested in not leaving the ram air open. You want to make sure that you have your cowl flaps in the right spot as well. So here's what we're going to do. Normally, of course, you'd want to call and get permission to take off and everything under the sun like that, but I'm not worried about it too much. Like I said, this is just a simulation. It's just one of those opportunities to kind of go through the different movements, so to speak. All right. Line ourselves up at the runway here. Obviously, we're taking off runway 20 here, and we're going to be flying over towards the Wyndham today. Not doing anything too sophisticated, just making sure my brakes are working okay. One thing I will do while I'm kind of getting all warmed up is I'll go ahead and get the GPS set up. Normally, you would not be doing this during this sequence, but like I said, we might as well just get it going, because the focus here is not on things like this. It's on the procedures of the aircraft. Delightful. That is all set. So now we'll be able to get over to Wyndham without too much trouble. All right, line ourselves up with the runway. Again, at this point, everything's been checked. So now the one weird thing here, as I'll go ahead and line ourselves up as a kind of do a sort of conventional approach here, is we need to do our lights, camera, action as always. So again, our lights all set. We make sure our transponder is on, which it is, and then action is go. But there's an extra added step here, and that's the fact that we need to turn the fuel pump on as we start our roll. Isn't that weird? So I'm going to go ahead and apply full power, nice and smooth, fuel pump on. Like I said, it's just a little different, just a little different. So we're going to come ripping down the runway here, and we're looking for a speed of about 63 knots. Now this aircraft, like I said, it kind of reminds me of an old 80s Porsche Carrera. It's just a little squirrely in the tail there. All right, there's our 50 knots. Notice how much runway we've sucked down already here. 60 knots. All right, we're just going to lift the tail. The nose rather. If we lifted the tail, we'd probably crash. And then we go ahead and get ourselves up, and our initial speed is going to be 71 knots indicated. So we'll pull that handle up. Now some of you are like, grab the handle, landing gear, landing gear. The book says we're supposed to wait until we clear of obstacles, and unfortunately the obstacles in Hartford there are going to be out kind of at the end of the runway. So we're not going to get the world's highest performance here until we kind of get over all this nastiness. Like I said, we're just holding 71 knots initially, not doing anything too crazy here. All right, clear of obstacles, and we're going to lift up the landing gear. And you're going to get a warning about gear down. Just relax. It'll go away in a moment. All right, and now we're going to bring up the flaps. So the flaps in this one, we're just going to be kind of gentle, do the classic little milking up the flaps kind of piece here. And excellent. We are now all set and ready to cruise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start our initial turn in the direction of Wyndham. Again, this particular aircraft, depending on what the rudder's set to, it doesn't need too much, because it's a pretty, like I said, very short plane. But those ailerons are not very powerful, and you're going to probably notice that right away. So as I'm doing this turn, I'm going to start considering what we need to do as far as our climb. Now the POH describes 3 different types of climbs that we could use for this one. You have kind of the standard climb, you have a very fast climb, and you have a, oh my god, I'm going to crash into that pole in front of us climb, depending on exactly what your particular needs are. We'll go ahead and take a look at those all in turn. So a normal climb is considered 26 inches of manifold and 2,600 RPM with ram air open. Best angle climb is going to be maximum everything, and you want to make sure that you do 69 Kias, knots indicated, until you get to whatever altitude that you're trying to get towards. Now if you want to do best rate of climb, that's going to be full everything, full throttle and RPM, full rich on the mixture, and you're going to make sure your cowl flaps are open, and you're going about 88 knots. So we're going to go ahead and use a traditional normal climb here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop up this handy dandy thing. You don't get this in the real plane, which is kind of a shame. It would make my life much easier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce my manifold pressure to about a little less than this. I'm going to go ahead and engage the ram air here. Nope, don't mind that. It is not like that. It is not a turbocharger. I think the people who model the plane have a little bit too much fun, in my opinion. We're going to get to about, let's call about 26 inches right there. And we're going to go ahead and reduce our RPM as well, down to 2,600 RPM, which you can see very clearly. And that will do it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to establish our speed as about, it's going to be, not speed, between 91 and about 100, I think is what I recommend. I think get that exact number. 91 and 100, got it perfectly. And we're just going to use this kind of arrangement as our general kind of purpose climb. During the climb, of course, things we're going to be keeping an eye on is going to be things like what are our temperatures. Like right now, I'm looking at our cylinder head right about 310 degrees on the Fahrenheit scale, which is, it's getting warm, but it's nothing bad. We also want to be considering things like, are we running into ice? If we run into ice, we definitely want to close up the ram air because we don't want any chance of that stuff kind of getting in there. Remember, you're bypassing the filter when you use that. And all those other kind of considerations. Obviously, be talking to air traffic control, get everything kind of all ready and all set up and things like that. And what we'll do today is we'll go ahead and level off at an altitude of 2,500 feet. Time to take a look at the automatic pilot. Like obviously this one's a little different than the one that we see over in the actual aircraft. It's just kind of a pretty generic altitude hold. It's not going to have anything that gives you the ability to preset vertical speed or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and engage the automatic pilot. Pretty straightforward. I'm just going to press the AP button. The whole plane's going to jerk for just a tiny bit. I'm going to go ahead and engage the navigational hold. If you remember earlier, we dialed in our Wyndham destination here and made sure the CDI was set to GPS. You can also see that switch right here. And once we get up to 2,500 feet, I'm just going to mangle the altitude button here. The real plane, you're going to want to use the autopilot after you've got everything where you want it, and then click it, not like this. But like I said, for the purposes of discussion, we're just going to kind of keep it simple for us tonight. All right, 2,500 feet. Time to take a look at cruise. So cruising in this aircraft is relatively straightforward. We just wanted to keep a couple things in mind. One thing is going to be our temperatures. It's very, very tempting to grab onto the cow flap handle and push it all the way forward. That's fine. Ideally, you want better than 300 degrees and you want less than 400 degrees. So you're going to have to kind of fix with the handle to make it work. It is a pretty hot summer day today. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and crack it out just a teeny tiny bit, which is going to work out fairly well. As far as cruise settings goes, this is a fast airplane. So you want to go ahead and do all your calculations before we get in the air. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up with a really, really basic 70% horsepower cruise here. So we're currently at about 2,500 feet, which is not too bad. So we're going to use, let's see, 2,400 and 25.1 manifold pressure. So again, you can't do this in the real airplane, but hey, I'm going to take advantage of it, kind of a thing like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go ahead and set my power here. We're looking at, like I said, 25.1. Looks about as close as I could physically get that. I can't read that 0.1 unless somebody else can. I'd be very impressed if you could. So now we're going to go ahead and just set RPM to 2,400. You want to do this smoothly. It's going to do a little wobble. That's just what it's going to do. Don't make yourself insane trying to get the RPM good. You just need to get it close. Perfect. So now we've got, we'll gain a little tiny bit of manifold pressure like that. Doesn't surprise me. Like I said, don't go crazy. And go ahead and close that sucker out. And now we're ready to rock as far as that goes. So we've got our cow flaps set up. We've got our power set to what we need to do. Normally what we want to do is every time we go ahead and pass a certain time of day, we want to go ahead and flip over the fuel tank selector. There's nothing special as far as requiring fuel pumps or anything along those lines, except for the fact we want to disengage that during flight. So I missed that step, unfortunately. As far as leading the mixture goes, the book itself describes a couple different options as far as what you can do. You can do basically 125 to the rich side, which is going to be best power, or you can do a much closer to that as well if you're looking for 100 rich of peak, or you can do a 25 rich of peak if you're looking for a little bit more fuel economy at the cost of a little bit of speed. Obviously, you want to pick the one that you're interested in. And notice, by the way, how fast those cylinders are warmed right back up. We're looking at about 360 degrees already, so it does not take much. So what I'm going to do now is we'll just go quickly through the leaning process. Like I said, if you have an EGT monitor, it's pretty easy. We're awfully low to lean, and our power's awfully high to be able to get this. But the general concept here is just like normal. What you're going to do is you're going to slowly go ahead and pull out the red handle. You're going to start seeing an increase in temperature. And what's going to happen is it's going to peak, which should peak just about here. Normally, if you have this little yellow bar, you could put it on the peak, and then all you're going to do is you're going to increase it until you're about 100 degrees rich at that particular point, which for our case, because we were so low, 100 degrees rich of peak is basically going to be full rich in this particular case. But that's exactly how you do the cruise. So that's it as far as takeoff and cruise. We're going to be at our destination in just a few moments. Taking a look at our GPS over here on the right. Got about 8 miles to go, which is problematic because we're never going to have enough time to descend. But we'll deal with descending and landing in the next video. Enjoy.